Hello, travelers. My name is Grace Simmons, and this is the Random and Wonderful podcast. Settle in and listen to stories of wanderlust and transformation as you gain tips to inspire your next travel experience. The Random and Wonderful is brought to you by the Amethyst Palava Hut, LLC. All right, Janelle, thank you so much for being my guest on the Random and Wonderful. How are you doing today?
I'm great. Thank you so much for having me.
You're very welcome. So the listeners are going to have a chance to read through your bio, but I want to get a little bit more into what you do, who you are, and what is this experience and relationship that you have with travel?
Yes. Well, I am a full-time world schooling mother of 4 daughters, and we have been traveling nonstop for the past 5.5 years. We've been to 47 countries and counting. And we live in a different country every sort of 4 to 8 weeks. And when we're living in that country, we are either road tripping around or we're based in a place and doing sort of a hub and then going out to do different day trips further out into the country. So we explore this way because of the fact that I have always learned best through immersive experiences, and travel being at the core of that. And so when I had my kids starting into school age and I looked at the different schooling options, I wasn't pleased with the education opportunities that the schools provided. And I felt like, well, my husband and I have entrepreneurial endeavors, so why not just travel and work remotely and educate our kids through traveling? So we set this big goal as a family. We were living in San Diego, California, and we set this goal to go to 1/4 of the world's countries, which is approximately 50. And so we said just however long that takes, or if one of the kids or several of the kids decide they actually hate traveling, we'll stop. But so far that hasn't happened. Everybody is, all 6 of us are just completely crazy about traveling. And so we love our lifestyle.
Wow. So I think I've had the opportunity to talk to people who have traveled, as a solo traveler, right? Or maybe with a spouse or a partner, but to have your entire family and having such a steep goal, right? To bring this entire family on, what was that planning process even like?
Well, you wouldn't believe it, but actually our lease was coming up in our San Diego apartment in 3 weeks. And we were trying to decide if we were going to renew it. And sort of over pillow talk at night, my husband and I were like, well, maybe we can renew it, or maybe we can go somewhere else. And we're just very sort of big thinkers. And I don't remember which one of us floated the idea of, let's just take off and travel for a while. And it was kind of laugh. It was like, oh, sure, yeah, let's do that. That's funny. And the other person said, why not? I mean, we can anywhere there's Wi-Fi, there's work. So why don't we just do it? And so then it snowballed over the next couple of days to become like, let's do 50 countries and let's start a YouTube channel and let's share the experience with other kids all around the world through educational videos. So we didn't really plan. We literally sold all our things in 3 weeks. And we took off and we said, we'll try to do as many of the states as we can. So we've done 46 of the 50 US states on a big road trip. And then we took off and went to Europe and went off from there. And we just take it one step at a time. We buy one-way tickets. We don't plan too far ahead. And we stay approximately a month, sometimes longer, sometimes shorter. Yeah. So we're not huge planners. In fact, it sounds like a logistical nightmare. How do you plan that far? But we don't. We just don't.
So you said that you were a world schooler, which I love that title. Can you give me a little bit more of how are you providing and balancing like education with the adventure of travel and actually going from place to place? Like, how do you pull education out of that or infuse it into that experience?
Yes, great question. Well, the idea of world schooling is really more of a way of thinking about education. And it has, I don't know, are you familiar with it at all? Or No, okay. So the idea is that the whole world is the classroom and everything in it is a learning opportunity. So there's no walls, there's no school, some people will use a curriculum that's tied to a particular course of study. We don't do it that way. The way that we do it so I've got a 7-year-old, 10-year-old, 12, and 14-year-old. So I've got one in high school, one in middle school and two in elementary. And so they're all in different places. And we started when the youngest was 2. So, this has been 5.5 years we've been doing this. So each one of them need different things at different junctures of their education. But essentially, I feel like when we're in a particular destination, that place provides the core of everything that they're learning. So when for example, right now we're in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. Brazil is a massive country, approximately the size of the United States. And everything that we're learning, most of what we're learning, I should say maybe 80% of it, is about Brazil. The food, the history, the culture, the geography, the science, what the museums hold, what kind of music everyone's listening to, all of that is what my kids are learning. Now, we do 2 hours a day of sit-down work. I've just completed it before I came on to this interview. And so the kids, they do digital learning on their iPads, mostly. A couple subjects have workbooks like math. And we do 20 minutes in 6 subjects, and that takes us 2 hours. So we just back to back, 20 minutes, set a timer. They do this subject, and then 20 minutes, 20 minutes. And in 2 hours, we're done. So usually by 10 o'clock in the morning, we're out the door and we have the whole day to explore. And so world schooling is this mix between fully immersive place-based learning and supplementing some of the more classical education stuff. But it's really rooted in liberal arts education coming from the thinkers from ancient Greece and how they saw what education is. So that's how I would approach world schooling. Other world schoolers might answer differently. There's a broad range.
Okay. I genuinely thought that was something that you came up with, actually.
I wish I could
I had
it,
not heard of it before.
No,
That's interesting.
In fact, they think that there's approximately 80,000 families like us in the world who are traveling full-time with kids for the purpose of education who would identify as world schoolers in some form. So it's far more than just us.
Yeah, well, I think that's also a very unique community to be able to look to and connect. Are you able to then connect with some of these other people who are in the same like world schooling thought when you're out and about? Like, do you all connect? Do you exchange information? Or how does that work?
Yes, there's lots of different ways that people connect. Facebook groups tends to be the place where people get to know each other and hear about different world schooling events. We tend to not do what's called world schooling hubs because they can add up when you've got 4 kids. There's a price tag to it. So you would go to a place, for example, in Luxor, Egypt, and there's a whole hub that's set up where you can pay a fee and then your kids can engage in their program for a month or 2 months or however long. And everything is established. It's not traditional school subjects. It's around what's there in Egypt. Some families absolutely love that. They have a fantastic time doing that. For us, we love being together. That's one of the reasons why we travel. And we have this built-in community with our 4 kids. So we kind of, in some ways, don't need to be around other people all day long because we prefer to be around people who are from the culture where we're traveling. We don't travel to be with other people who are Americans or Europeans who are also world schoolers. So we might connect briefly, but we tend to not seek them out as much as some world schoolers might because we'd rather, if we're in Egypt, we want to be with Egyptians, and we're in Morocco, we want to be with Moroccans. But yeah, the world schooling community is rich and deep, and I know lots of people in it, and it's great to be able to help each other out where we can.
Mm-hmm. Were either you, your husband, like travelers? So the idea of traveling around, like, let's take a break, but where does traveling even come from for either of you?
For both of us. Well, we grew up doing service projects as teenagers. So in the summer times, we would take off for a month and sign up with an organization where we would go to the other side of the world and help do something. And so as teenagers, that was just the way that we operated. We would be at school in 9 months. And then in the summertime, instead of working summer jobs, we would go and serve. And we loved it, both of us. And we didn't know each other during high school, but we actually met in Thailand when we were teenagers and lost touch for 8 years and then re-met again. And then we moved to Africa, where we lived in South Africa, and all of our kids were born there for 10 years. And so, our life has been marked by international, intercultural experiences. And we both studied that in college. We studied international development and relations. So, yeah, it was all part of the fabric of our family, I think.
Yeah. No, I think that's absolutely beautiful, because sometimes you have this idea of like, let's, why not? Let's travel, let's explore. but to know that that was something that is one, a practice that you already have. You studied it for sure, but like it's already an ingrained practice that the both of you have. I think that probably makes your foundation of learning through travel something that is that you can pass on to like your kids and you can share that experience with them.
100%.
It's amazing.
And our kids all say that they want to travel full time when they're
Hmm.
grown-ups. And so they're already thinking, well, I've got to marry a guy who likes traveling as much as me because you know what I mean? I can't not have someone who just
Right.
wants.
These are the requirements. Exactly.
So yeah, and we keep thinking. I mean, we've got a 14-year-old now, and she's in high school, and she's great. I mean, she's has no interest in going back to America and just going to a normal high school because to her it feels narrow. To her, it's like, well, this month I'm in Brazil, and next month I'm in Chile, and next month I'm in Peru. Why would I go and live a normal experience? It just sounds kind of boring to her, I think. So we'll see what happens.
That's the fact that like that mindset, the possibilities are literally endless for her. That's incredible. That's great.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think early on, we identified things that our kids were passionate about
Hmm.
very early, like from the age of 4 or 5. And so then we've tailored our travels very specifically to help feed those passions. And so, in addition to all of the richness that I described of being immersed in a place and experiencing all the things that that has to offer, we're also setting up mentorships and apprenticeships with different people according to what our kids want to do. So, we've got one that is into art and music. And so, we're always connecting her with different artists and musicians. And she's interviewing the archivist in Carnegie Hall. And the next month, she's in Paris with interviewing the person who's in charge of the Paris Opera House. And so these are experiences, and we're filming it and we're producing videos around it. And we have another daughter who's interested in rocks and minerals and geology. And so we are just taking her up to all these science museums, and we'll try to get with the person who's curating these exhibits and have her be the travel journalist who's guiding that through from the time she was 7, 8, 9 years old. So anyway, and we've got a daughter who wants to be a chef when she grows up, and she's hilarious. She's bought her .com. She knows what her business name is going to be. She's going to open a restaurant. It's going to be Michelin starred. She's got a
Oh
whole
my
thing.
goodness.
And so whenever we're in a country, we look for who is a chef that is
Hmm.
known, that speaks English, who makes the food of the country. And then I email them and I say, hey,
Yeah.
would you like to cook with a 10-year-old? And we'll film it so that all the kids around the world can see what you do. And they always say yes, always,
Yeah.
because it's a wonderful give back for them,
Janelle, that's so cool. Like,
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I mean, I hope that my kids realize looking back,
yeah.
when they're grown-ups and they look back on this, they don't think we were crazy and that they never had a home, that they look back and think, man, my parents were cool and they took us to a lot of amazing places.
Yeah. Yeah. So from my nieces and nephews, I know that kids can be very resilient. And so when you're able to provide them different opportunities where they can learn, it's sort of like ingraining that knowledge into them. So as adults, you kind of look back like, I didn't realize what an opportunity I had, but it's amazing how they're able to like grow through it and learn from it. And then they're sharing this experience with others who maybe have never left their state, right? And they probably sound like, how could you have done that as such a little kid, at such a young age? But that's fascinating. That's absolutely
Yeah.
fascinating.
Yeah, it was important to us from the beginning that what we experienced, knowing that a lot of kids don't have that opportunity, that we were to create something that wasn't just about us. It was something that the kids could learn. They have a responsibility when they have an experience to share it with others for the purpose of their benefit, right? So it's not just, oh, I did this and I did that, but it's I did this and this is how we're going to share it with you. So we create on one of our TV shows, we create 5 to 10 minute episodes. There are 4 kids, ages 4 to 12 years old. And my kids are the lead travel journalists, and they're interviewing someone, they're having an experience, and they're teaching other children their age what they're learning. And so these episodes have been picked up by several different streaming platforms, one of them being Epic, which is in all public schools in America. All of the schools have it. So it's an audience of 46 million kids. And teachers are using these videos on big screens in their classrooms to teach about different countries and cultures and different things. And so it's been really humbling and beautiful to see that our family experience and our travels have been able to, it wasn't just something that we experienced, but now it can be a tool that other kids around the world can learn from and grow from. It's an impact that we can have together as a family, in addition to a beautiful record of what we've
Yeah.
experienced.
That's wonderful. I do love that it's a full circle opportunity and you're able to give back in that way. Are you ready to travel with more confidence and less stress? The Traveler's Mindset course is here to help you overcome your fear, plan trips that match your needs, and embrace the wellness benefits of travel. Whether you're new to solo travel, managing anxiety, or just looking for practical tools to explore the world, this course was designed for you. All you need is a willing heart and listening ears. Visit the link in the show's description to enroll today and start your journey with confidence. Could you tell me a little bit about Bravely?
Yes. So Bravely is a new opportunity that I have created in the last couple of months. I've launched to engage with other families who are interested in traveling with kids, specifically for the purpose of education. So my niche within the travel industry is around world schooling is a part of it, but the bigger idea is, can and should education be a part of travel? Or can we see travel through a new lens for the purpose of education? It's a very different thing to go to Costa Rica and to book a resort and to sit poolside with your Mai Tai and put the kids in kids club and chill as a mom. And there's nothing wrong with that. But it's a shame that you would miss in doing that the opportunity to experience the richness and the biodiversity and the opportunity for learning that a country like Costa Rica would provide to your kids. So what I do at Bravely is I take parents on a journey of thinking about what their kids are learning in whatever their education situation is. So if their kids are in full-time traditional school or homeschool or whatever it is, and think about what are they not experiencing? Okay, yes, they have science classes and tests, but do they understand what it's like to stand under a waterfall in Bali? You know what I mean? Do they understand what it's like to walk the Arctic Circle line with wild reindeers running around them? Can they go into the Sahara Desert in Morocco and on the back of a camel and camp out there with the Berber tribe? These are things that we've done. And I want to share that with other parents, not to boast about what we've experienced, but to say you can do it too, and let me come alongside you and empower you so that you don't feel alone in that. And I'll help to guide you on whatever I don't have an agenda for you. If you're a parent and you want to educate your kids or supplement their education through travel, my plan is not to say, you need to do this, this, and this, but to say, what do you value as a family? And how can I help you achieve that goal through travel? How can I help you think around the edges of that to broaden it and push it out and expand it a little bit? And then to help you craft trips or longer term travel experiences like a gap year, or some people call it a wonder year, or a longer term travel journey, 2, 3, 4, 5 years. And whatever that might look like, I serve as an educational travel consultant. So I create really cool, I think, itineraries around educational family travel that people can access for free on bravelytravel.com. And they can see very quickly, oh, okay, if I go to Paris for the purpose of education, here's an itinerary that unpacks all the different things that relate to kids in Paris. And they're organized into days, and there's bedtime reflection questions, and there's crafts and activities that they could do if they wanted to. And there's a park play scheduled in every single day. So parents don't have to think about all that and do all that research. I've done it for them. And other parents, they need to jump on a call with me and just talk about the ideas that they have. And then, I serve as a coach and a consultant for them. So it's many things, but that's the big idea behind Bravely.
I was going to ask about, so like for the parents who's maybe say, this is really interesting. However, how do you kind of coax parents into this mindset, especially when they're talking about, the education of their kids?
Parents who are especially who pay big fees for private schools, Tuition can be insane, especially in America. You're talking over $10,000 a year per kid. And there's incredible schools. But I think it's very easy to defend that when you're paying the bill. If I've got four kids at 10 grand a pop, I'm looking at 40 grand a year. And if someone were to say to me, "Are you sure that your kids are getting the best education they could receive?" I would say, "Heck yeah, do you know what I mean?" But as they really think through it, I think most parents, if they're honest, would say, is there pieces that I could add to my child's education experience that would make the learning that they're doing in their educational path come alive in a new way? And so if I can get them to think about sparking that through travel, it starts to become really fun because it's not about a have to, it's about an I can. And it ties into things that people value as a family. So, for example, we love fine arts, music and opera and jazz and, all different kinds of music and paintings. And we seek out those opportunities everywhere we go. We greatly value adventure. So we're always doing cool sports and different things. But organized sports like baseball and soccer is not our jam. But for another family, that's really important, right? So I can help them think through whatever you value as a family, organize your travel around that. Like if your kid's into race cars, where's the Monaco Grand Prix? It's in Monaco. Go to Monaco and watch the Grand Prix live. So I have a lot of fun just guiding parents through a series of questions and helping them to arrive on their own that at the idea that they can travel for the purpose of education and it can be a lot of fun. And that can help them take the headache out of it so that they can just enjoy the experience of being with their kids and having these awesome experiences.
That's really cool. I think that's really nice. I know one of the issues, I think, when people are trying to understand traveling outside of like a tourist experience, right? An issue is trying to figure out the logistics of all of that. And so to have someone, especially when you have an entire family with you, to have someone help you through that is so key. And then there is heart behind it, right? So you're not just going out and learning, you are actually bringing your family along on this entire experience. So yeah, I think that's such a cool program that you have.
Yes. Yeah. Last year, we started a different TV show called Journey into Wild, and it was birthed out of the need that parents were expressing to me. They were watching our other show, Adventure Family Journal, which is focused on kids. And as parents, they were watching it and going like, okay, but what is it like for you as a mom? How do you actually do your day? How do you get everything done? When do you work? How do the kids keep up with their math? How do they learn the foreign language? How do you do it? And what is it like for you to journey through a country with a family of six? And so we started this, we had done a ton of travel through Europe and a lot of cities, and we navigated COVID while doing all of this. And we got to a place where we said, we just need nature and a lot of it. So we really formed a travel plan we're closing 2 years of travel around this theme of biodiversity and unique biomes in the world. So biodiversity hotspots and unique biomes. And so we literally got out a world map and we're like, where are the cool places, interesting places where there's rich nature, or there's something that's really different and unique, like, the Northern Lights or, the Nile River or the African savanna, places where we wouldn't typically necessarily think are top destinations. But in that journey, we have had the coolest experiences. And we created this show, Journey into Wild, to show the parents' perspective. So it's my husband and I on screen leading it, and the kids are there, obviously, but it's really directed toward parents and saying, when you go to Malaysia or Thailand or Bali or Australia, this is what it could be like for you as a parent. And that's been a really fun experience, a completely different expression of our family unity and what we do together creatively.
When you're going to these different places, are you learning the language each time? Do you have like a few basic phrases that you carry with you and are translatable, or how do you navigate language in other countries?
Well, it depends on which family member you ask. I love languages, and my My little 7-year-old, she's a linguist. I mean, the girl can navigate linguistically, and and my girls they're all very interested. So we're always studying Spanish and French. That's what they've chosen to consistently study: English, Spanish, and French. We go back to Italy a lot. I am crazy about Italy. And so I'm always studying Italian. And then as we're in other countries where if we're in Israel, we're studying Hebrew, or if we're in Egypt or Turkey, we're studying Arabic. It's hard. Like, these are not easy languages. They're definitely not Romance languages. They're so definitely different than the European ones that we study all the time. But it's important to us that we dedicate ourselves to every single day. We're going to put in 20 minutes a day just to study the language of the country that we're in. So right now we're studying Portuguese because we're in Brazil. And yeah, it's super fun. And in Europe, it's very normal to speak 5 or 6 languages. As an American, if you're bilingual, it's already badge of honor, super cool. Right? But I would love for my kids to be, 18 and speak 3 or 4 languages, and to feel confident that any language on planet Earth that they want to learn, they have the skills to know how to learn a language and the confidence to do that. So my husband, on the other hand, caveat, is not a language guy, doesn't study the language. He does Google Translate. So, if he tries to speak French to someone in France, they laugh at him. So he just decided Google Translate is his friend. He speaks into the app, "I would like 3 baguettes, please." And he holds it up at the cashier. And it speaks to them in French. So, we all do it differently.
What has been a country that has stood out for you, maybe in the way that they treat one another? So if you see another family unit in the way that they are connected, or you can kind of notice their unity, what's a country or culture that may have stood out to you?
I would have to say Greece. We love Greece. We've spent maybe, I don't know, 8 months or so there over the years. We keep going back. And we don't currently own a home or a car or furniture, any of that stuff. But if we ever were to, we would buy a villa on an island in Greece, because there's just no place like it. I love the way that the Greeks handle family. And so it's one of the things that we keep going back for is that beautiful, beautiful way that they love families.
Yeah. Before we wrap up, what is your self-care practice that you incorporate into your travel?
For me personally, well, I'm not very good at that. I'm an
Okay.
8 on the Enneagram. And I'm
All
an
right.
8 on the Enneagram. I'm an entrepreneur. I love travel, and I love being in new places and new cultures. And that for me is joy and is life. I'm not someone who needs a lot of downtime. I'm a total extrovert. And so the more people I can be around, the happier I am. So to be really honest, being out in a city, being out in a culture is self-care for me, because that's what feeds my soul. I work when my kids go to sleep. So when they go to bed at 9 o'clock, and I love to work, and they go to bed at 9 o'clock, and I work from 9 until 1 a.m. And that's my time. That's also a form of self-care for me, because I'm alone in my business mind, and I'm doing the things that I love because it's my business and my passion. But I don't sleep a ton. I'm sort of a 6-7 hours a night kind of girl. And we eat very healthy. That's also a form of self-care for me and for us. I cook almost every night. We don't eat out a lot. Maybe a few times when we're in a country, but usually we're cooking the food from the country. So all of those things kind of tie together for me in that journey.
Yeah, I like it. I still like it. Hey, look, so self-care looks different for everyone. For me, it's like I need a spa and a nap. But I like that there's that intentionality behind, especially when it
I
comes to
think
your
maybe when I
meals.
get all my kids through, that'll be my kind of self-care. Right now, I'm booked all in on this.
Yeah, you have a lot to do. So,
This is true.
Janelle, thank you so much for being on the podcast and for sharing your story. Before we go, what's next? Maybe what country's next for you? And then where can we find you?
Yes. Well, we are finishing our 50 country goal. So Right now, we're going back to Washington, D.C. for the next couple of months. My kids are not very familiar with American holidays because they've lived their whole lives in other countries mostly. And so we're going to have Halloween and Thanksgiving and Christmas and all that. But then early next year, we will have completed our 50 countries. And we are going to be tackling a different form of travel, which is going to be around deeply skill building for the kids. So we're going to stay 3 months in each country for them to focus on building a skill. So all the girls have worked together to choose what they are. And so we're going to be in England in the Cotswolds. They're going to do English horseback riding for 3 months. And they're going to do a sailing course in the south of Spain to learn how to handle knots and ropes and sails and all that. They are going to do 3 months of skiing in northern Italy in the Dolomite Mountains, skiing and snowboarding. And then we are going to do a aerial silks course in Sydney, Australia.
Yes.
So yeah, so it'll be it's a different kind of travel for us. It's much slower than we're used to, but it's going to be a full 3 months of setting up home and really digging into those things. So that's what's next.
Yeah. What? Okay. And so you said you have 2 shows. What are the name of the shows? Where can we watch them?
Yes. So Adventure Family Journal is on YouTube, and that's the one for kids. And there's 138 episodes filmed in 47 countries. And then we have Journey into Wild. Those are a different form. Those are made for TV content. So we've got different conversations happening with streaming platforms that are interested in picking up that show, which would be amazing. So those are 30-minute episodes, also on YouTube at the moment, Journey into Wild. And then my coaching business is called Bravely, so bravelytravel.com. And we also have a blog for Adventure Family Journal, which is much more family-focused content and more our family story than it is other families and what they're doing with Bravely.
Nice. Okay. Well, thank you again.
Well, thanks for having me.
It has been on. Absolutely. No, this has been
a lot of fun.
So cool. I'm glad I got to learn a little bit more about world schooling as well.
Yes.
So thank you so much.
What a pleasure.
Hey there, Grace here. I hope you enjoyed today's episode and gained some useful takeaways. Thank you so much for listening and staying until the end. Don't forget to rate the show or share it with some friends. Have a wonderful week. Take care. And remember, be bold, be curious, be ready to tell your story. You never know who needs it. Bye-bye.